Well, it's beautiful to be sitting in the sunshine with you.
Hey.
Yeah, this is
Last
gorgeous.
time we were talking, I was sitting in my clothes closet in the dark, so it's much nicer to be out here in the field with you.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's start where we always start. In this time, this day, this hour, this season, this lifetime. How's the world treating you, Allie, and how are you treating the world?
Oh, the world is busy. The world is full of really movements that I'm inspired by and happy to be a part of. Yeah, that's a big question, but since our last talk, I feel very much more part of an ecosystem, and much more rooted in that ecosystem.
And so when we talked the first time and we were in the lab, we started the conversation with asking about the hypothesis of the work of Feed Black Futures. And we're wondering if there's any conclusions you have about the work, whether that be over the whole existence of Feed Black Futures or since we've last talked.
I guess like key takeaways is that there's a lot of people that still need food, and probably since we have spoken, there's been more Black land loss, more Black land theft, so this work is more important than ever. And I think one of the takeaways, and that speaks to the ecosystem part, is that you don't have to do it all. And when I was coming up in this work, I was thinking, okay, we have to do direct service and policy and advocacy and support people in growing, which we all still technically do, but we are relying so much more on our partners and that ecosystem. And, you know, as Audre Lorde told us, there's no liberation without community. Leaning into community is a practice that I've taken really seriously since our last discussion.
So in hearing that, this leaning into communal collaboration, I'm imagining or hearing that allows for more focus in a certain way. So is focus showing up?
Oh, I love that. Yeah, focus is showing up. I recently we wrangled like a steering committee of our folks who are directly impacted by the carceral system and food apartheid to steer our work, and a board and advisory circle that are really like connected to movements around the country for liberation. And then I hired a co-executive director.
Shout out.
The code.
Yes.
Fans of codes.
Yeah, exactly.
Commons and codes.
There you go.
Common and code might
Comment
be
and co.
That's pretty high.
I love that. My co-executive director, their name is Sophie Wilmore, Black, non-binary agroecologist, who has helped us focus in ways that has been really beautiful. Yeah, fan of codes, fan of commons, fan of collaboration.
There you go.
Yeah.
But part of what I'm hearing in that, of like welcoming in that collaboration and then also shifting the scope of what you expect you to be doing is like a process of expanding when you say the we, who that we is. Like it doesn't have to be just people in this one formation, but trusting these collaborators, trusting this ecosystem.
Yes.
And some of that, one, just rings true of like the challenge of that work of like expanding who you think your we is. But I'm also wondering in that you start to see the differences between the like hyper-local context that people are working in, right? So, you know, what's happening in this mutual aid project or this farm in the Inland Empire, for instance, is different from what it looks like for a farm in downtown LA. And so I'm wondering, like, in trying to replicate the things that have worked, as that ecosystem has expanded, how has that been? What have been the like differences in those hyperlocal contexts as you've tried to replicate and grow in different ways? Like, where has that been possible? Where has that not?
Sure. Yes, there's a lot about scale and replication. I think a case I often make more in like the funder space is like, we don't really need to scale. Like, let's go deeper in a community rather than broaden. And if you feed one person, if you give one bag of food to one family, there's a ramification like tenfold of who it expands to and who it feeds. So one of the moms I work with down in downtown LA, she feeds her whole apartment building. She first started getting one bag from one of our farmers, And then she started handing it out, and she's like, this isn't enough. So she picks up about 10 bags a week from one of our Black farmers. And I think that speaks to, especially downtown LA, where there's a lot more vertical living. There's a lot more vertical living rather than like in the IE, where it's a bit more peri-urban or rural, and people are more spread out. So what works maybe better with our rural folks is like deliveries, rather than people picking up. I see downtown more people pick up from our farmers.
It feels like one of the greatest successes of organizing work is when we blur that line between the organizer and the impacted or the recipient or the participant in a program. And one of the themes that is coming out of this project is the power of beautiful failures. And so Miriam Kaba says very eloquently that we should be proud to fail, and we should not let the fear of failure prevent or preclude us from trying.
Yes.
Or, sometimes things end, but we should not give up because we're afraid of failure.
Yeah. Yes, and as someone who comes from an immigrant background, failure is not always seen as beautiful. We're in this place right now of building out our steering committee, which is, prison-impacted moms, system-impacted folks, helping to steer our work. You come in with like a vision of what's it going to be, and they were all asking me like, Allie, what do you want this to be? What do you want this to be? And something that Sophie, my new co, has helped me recognize is like, no, we are in service to y'all. So one of our moms is in a policy institute and is trying to get healthier food and clean water into correctional facilities, women correctional facilities in the state, attached to the state prison. And how can Feed Black Futures support this mom in getting her loved ones who are inside better quality food and water? How can we help support y'all with our little baby budget and our emerging infrastructure? Appreciate the
That's
reframe.
what we call baby budgets.
Yes, emerging infrastructure.
It's not inadequate.
Yeah.
To that perfectionism,
Yeah.
here's, as someone who also struggles with it, just trying to perfect failure. How can I fail the best? How can I really just not hit the landing perfectly?
Right.
And I mean that jokingly, but I do think there's some point to that, because so much of how that gets internalized is, this is going to make me less likely to take the next risk, or less likely to even return to the space, because there's the embarrassment that sometimes gets embedded in that. And so, just personally, that's something I've been trying to work through too. And I think it's helpful in building new structure to have that like expectation kind of built in from the jump of like, hey, you're not expected to be perfect, but you're expected to return.
Right. One of the meditation teachers that I follow, Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams, returning is the point. Like, you will get distracted as you sit and meditate, but as long as you return, how do we keep pushing, keep feeding people, keep supporting people in growing food? Oh, I have a great example of someone in my community. One of our moms, one of our members, really took that to heart. And her name's Miss Victoria, and she would be okay with me sharing this because she now has her own organization called Seed to Skillet.
Oh, wow.
So we would get her food during the pandemic. She lost a loved one during the pandemic. And then she started just planting and growing food. We supported her in building a garden at her church. We're now helping secure her land right next to her church. And now she works with about 20 foster youth and supports them in growing their own food and does nutrition work. And she had a lot of loss, and all of our communities have had a lot of loss, but she's someone who has turned that loss into a beautiful garden.
Thank you so much for being in the field with us.
Yeah, thank you.